This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.
Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson, and it's my pleasure to have with us tonight Dr. Fariel Walid. Welcome, Dr. Walid.
Hello, Dr. Robinson.
Well, it's not so usual. We have such a nice-looking young lady with us tonight, so that's a good change of pace. I think often we have some rather pudgy old men here, so it's nice. It's nice to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, it's our custom to talk about many different things, and we often talk a lot about the American healthcare system.
Sure.
And one of the things that's of great import, I think, are number one, we have many ladies, I'm using the word in its highest sense, that are physicians, they work, and the system really depends on them, and I think we need to talk about that. And also we have many people that are MDs that have come to the country that have made great contributions to our world here. So you might be a sort of a good example on both accounts.
I hope so.
Well, now let's see, Fariel. So let's just talk about how things happened to bring you to this part of the world. You were born in Syria, is that right?
I was born in Syria. I was raised in Syria, and I finished my medical school in Syria.
So you were
Latakia, Syria.
Latakia, and that's on the coast in Syria,
right.
Is that correct?
Right. It's in the north west coast.
Yes, and is it pretty competitive to get in medical school and do those things there?
Actually, there is a general exam in Syria that's taken at the end the last year of
secondary school or
of the high school.
Of high school. Yes,
the last year of
sure,
the high school.
Sure.
It's called the baccalaureate.
Yes.
Usually, the student who get the highest score in the baccalaureate, basically they can enter medical school.
So it's very competitive,
yes,
and people are studying and getting very nervous. Is that right?
Yes. Actually, it's a very stressful exam.
Oh, is it? Well,
it is.
And a lot depends on that. Is that right?
Right.
And so all over the country in Syria, people
all over the country, it's one exam.
Yes.
It's kind of you take this exam, and basically the highest score will get to medical school.
Wow. And so what subjects are examined? Do you have different?
It's really the same subjects that are here.
Well, like biology and chemistry and physics.
Math.
Okay, mathematics. Yeah. Okay, well that's good.
Chemistry.
So you I guess had some advantages in that your father is a professor, is that right? Did you have sort of an academic environment that you grew up in?
Actually, it was a very academic environment. He's kind of really encouraged us to study and work hard in school.
Yes, yes.
So he really had a big influence on us.
Yeah. And you'd lived in other places. You mentioned your father's professor had been in Algeria or Algiers. You spent some time there.
Because of his profession, we had to travel.
Right,
so
yes.
I spent part of the middle school and the first part of the high school in Algeria.
Yes.
And we got to visit other countries.
So you've really been widely traveled in your young life, is that right?
Yeah.
So you were in Latakia on the coast. You took the examination,
right?
And then you entered medical school after that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how long is medical school in Syria?
You enter after high school. You enter medical school right away, and actually it's 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. Yes.
So, and really, what happens in the American system, we have 4 years for college and
and pre-med. It's actually combined in Syria.
Yes.
So basically, pre-med and medical school is continuous 6 years.
And so it's a pretty rigorous kind of thing.
Right.
And you're going
very competitive.
So you had the people studied a lot, and that's right. I mean, I've been through that in the States. So I would say, I mean, there's anyone that says,
I think it's the same like here in medical school.
Yes,
it's
people
very
get very nervous about their exams. So you did that, and well, let's see what you graduated, and I mean, what were the circumstances by which you came to America? What happened exactly?
Well,
it's
a
rather
interesting.
Well, okay, well, that's good. What happened exactly?
Well, after I finished my medical school, I started actually my training in ophthalmology in Syria.
Yes.
Kind of during my training, I got engaged, and my current husband, was doing his training in the United States, and we end up getting married.
Well, that's rather good story. Now, just to talk about the way the wedding works there. I mean, the ceremony's sort of a 1, 2, 3 kind of ceremony, and then there's the big celebration afterwards. Or how does that work with the way the weddings go?
It's different. Actually, for us, it was a small ceremony,
yes.
and it's kind of because we had to travel.
You had to come here.
There's no one rule, to be honest.
Right. I mean, I can recollect sort of a big going to a wedding in Jordan, actually, and a lot of jumping around.
Right. Most of the time, but really does not.
Your circumstances
yes,
was somewhat more restrained.
Yes.
So you came here, and then did you speak English when you came?
Well,
Since
I
you
learned
speak
English. I learned English in school, so I was able to read and write. But you know, when you know the language, sometimes it's hard even to speak if you did not practice before. So I had really some difficulties in the beginning with the language.
Now, may I ask this question? How many languages do you speak?
Well, Arabic.
Yes.
I know some Russian and English.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? That's pretty good. And actually, the languages are quite different, Arabic and English, so it's rather difficult to the vowels are different, the music of the languages.
Correct.
But you've certainly done a tremendous job in picking the language up, and
thank you.
You came here, and then what happens under these circumstances? You're here, you're trying to get in the American healthcare system. How does that work? What
Usually when you are graduating from a foreign medical school, kind of basically you have to retake some of the exams of the medical school here, just kind of to be qualified to work in the United States. So basically I have to go through the same exams that the student here in medical school have to take. And basically after that I applied for residency and
you were successful in doing that.
Right.
And, so you could stay in the same place with your husband, and that's pretty tough, isn't it, to take these exams? I mean, from another country. And were you instructed in English? Was the textbooks English?
I knew English, and basic medical science is the same everywhere.
Yes.
So really, it's kind of, I think the basic was not hard. There's a lot of advanced treatments in here, but I don't think it was that hard, the transition. As I said, once you get the part of the language, it's kind of fun.
And so you were accepted in a residency program at the medical center?
I got accepted in residency program, family practice program at the medical center.
Yes. And now so you've done that, and now you're in private practice, I think, in Warner Robins, is that correct?
Georgia. Yes.
So, and you have a family, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, I hope we can meet you. You have 3 beautiful daughters, I think.
Thank you.
Maybe we
Thank
can
you,
meet
Dr.
them. We can talk about.
They are excited. They're very
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I mean, I think in many ways this is a story that's increasingly common. I mean, the difficulty of a young lady trying to have a family, a career is pretty tough, isn't it? All the stresses of that. It's very difficult, isn't it? Plus, a cultural.
I think it's a stressful time for the female. Most of the female now work, and we have a family, and we have kids. But to be honest, I will say that it was still a good career to choose. I still can adjust my time, and I still can have my time with the family, and at the same time my time with my patient too.
Right. So it's very stressful to do that, isn't it? And,
sometimes.
Sometimes.
But I'm sure if you have help in the house,
that makes it
much
better.
easier. Yes.
And being a primary care physician, you're sort of right on the front lines of what. You have any observations about what that's like? A family practice doctor. What are the problems you see? What are your observations about the?
I think there is currently some shortage with primary care physicians.
Yes.
There is more. There's more going to subspecialty right now from medical student. I think most of the problems that we have been getting is basically mostly dealing with third party and reimbursement.
Well, tell me about that. So because we have this enormous change that's coming to the American healthcare system, a huge change, and right now, tell me what that means. Third party payers, and maybe the audience can understand that. The payment system, what's happening?
Actually, I think in the current reform they're kind of trying to work on that, because basically the payment for the primary care physicians, including family medicine, internist, and pediatrician, has been kind of on the low side considered. So there is some move kind of to kind of adjust that a little bit.
And I've heard that, I've just heard this, that if, because just the financial structure of the American healthcare system, that were the government or the people that are controlling compensation arrangements, if they were to give too much of a nip to primary care doctors, it would be very hard for them to continue to stay in practice. Is that correct? I mean, you're right. You're vulnerable to the changes that might be propagated in Washington. Is that a fair statement?
That's definitely.
Yes,
definitely.
yes. Now, what would be a typical kind of patient population that you would look after? I mean, I know there's no typical patient.
No, I'm a family physician.
Yes, do you see everybody?
I see everybody, and that's the nice thing about it. It's just kind of a variety of ages.
Yes.
From the kids to elderly. Some even family physician, they do prenatal care, but it's kind of a variety of ages. With variety of cases too. That's a nice thing. So we see acute cases, most of the time kind of treatment of chronic condition and basically providing some preventive care instruction for the patient. We do some urgent care for the patient too. So, family medicine is broad.
And it's on the front line of everything. Now, what about prevention? Are you there's a big argument that in the American, I guess, population, they don't take care of themselves well enough. They're a little on the tubby size.
Right. I always emphasize that. I tell my patient, if you exercise, if you eat healthy, don't smoke, it's kind of most probably you're not going to need me if you take care of yourself. So really, that's definitely a topic that I always discuss with
now,
my patients.
In Syria, would you say there's a difference in the structure of the system? I mean, what happens, I guess, is there a family practice doctors there? How do things work?
Actually, no, they're trying to develop that. And I had one friend kind of, she's a physician too. They were working on kind of establishing a new residency in family medicine in Syria. But currently, actually, most of the care is provided by subspecialty. So if you have hypertension, you go to a cardiologist there.
Yes. So I think a lot of times what happens, one of the big inefficiencies of the American healthcare system, or people use the emergency rooms, don't they? I mean, that's very inefficient, costly, expensive. Does the same thing happen in Syria? If you have a headache, would a person go to the emergency room, or what would they do?
No, not to that point, to be honest. It's interesting, no.
But headaches here often wind up in
there is ER visits, but I think, using private physicians is more.
And I think some of the plans underway, which sounds reasonable to me, is in many ways trying to keep people out of the emergency rooms and under the custody of their local physician, so who knows the patient and can look after them a little better. And that's really a very inefficient situation, is it, when someone just goes to the emergency room with a headache, or a foot problem.
Right.
And have you had any? I think one of the issues that's out there is with sort of electronic medical records. Have you encountered that, or do you have
Actually, we've been using for 3 years now an electronic medical record. It has been, I think, to me, it has been very efficient and very helpful.
And the government is really sort of pushing that, and I think that would be pretty useful.
Right, but it has been useful actually with documentation and it's kind of with e-prescription, with the e-prescription system. This is kind of, it has.
So why don't you tell the audience what that is, the e-prescription system? What is that exactly?
It's basically a new way of kind of communicating with the pharmacy. It's kind of sending the prescriptions to the pharmacy. It's kind of just an efficient way to do that.
And I think the pharmacist can have a record, really, just in seeing what kind of medicines are being used.
It's kind of better in keeping the medication. It's kind of a safest way.
And I think these days there's something called polypharmacy. So many patients are on 10 or 15 or 20 different kinds of medicines. They often have cross reactions.
That's not related to the e-prescription. Most of the electronic health system, they have something kind of that will warn you if there's an interaction, and actually that's a benefit.
Right, so everything is being computerized, you're seeing things.
Anytime you add a medication, basically, if there's a possibility of interaction, contraindications, kind of it will pop.
So that will pop in there.
Yes, actually, that's correct.
Well, now, one of the things that happens, I think, with just the healthcare system, or being on call, being on night work, weekends, have you been able to structure your situation where you don't have to do that, or do you have to, or how does that work for you?
Actually, it's kind of for my practice, I work with the help of the hospitalist
Yes.
at Houston Medical Center. So basically, I have not been.
Why don't we discuss hospitalists a little bit? So what's your relationship with hospitalists? I mean, because this is increasingly an important part of the...
Actually, it's very helpful,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson. You will have it's kind of a physician who is 24-hour available in the hospital to
Yes.
give the patient
Yes.
care in the hospital. We have been having good communication, so
Yes.
if one of my patients is admitted, it's kind of they will notify me. It's kind of with basically an admission note.
Yes.
I will be notified when the patient is discharged, and the patient will follow up with me. So it's kind of, it comes handy. It's kind of the physician is not running between
Yes.
the office
Yes.
and the hospital.
Yes.
It's kind of they concentrate on providing the care.
Now, one of the things I've noticed or pay some attention to are the sign-out process, if you want to say that. So in other words, something has happened, one physician has seen a patient, and then there's a communication process where the information goes to another physician back and forth, and often that's where breakdowns occur. Is that correct? Is that working out okay with the present system?
Thank God, we have not had any problems.
How does that work? How are you communicating and back and forth with the hospitalist? Do they send you notes, or what happens?
Definitely, when the patient is admitted through the
Yes.
emergency room, I receive a note that basically the patient has been admitted. They request some information from
Yes.
the patients, kind of we communicate with them. And basically, when the patient is discharged, it's kind of I'll be informed. Most of the time, if they need some information from me, they will contact the
Yes,
office, and
yes,
we will help them
yes,
with that.
yes.
So basically, we did not have any problem with the issue of signing off.
Right, so no particular difficulties.
No,
Well, that's a
no.
good story. That's a good story. Well, I've heard it said, and maybe you can make a comment on that, when someone comes from another country to America, one of the things they notice are the issues with obesity, with the general population. I mean, is that a fair statement? And that's having a very negative impact on health, really. Have you any thoughts about that?
It is a problem currently, and I kind of try to always emphasize on that. There has been an epidemic of obesity, and
Yes.
I think it's more related to not exercising as much.
Right.
We're using more cars than we're
it's-
using cars more than
Yes,
walking.
right.
The type of food that we are eating, it's kind of very easy sometimes to get a meal from fast food and
Yes,
eat it.
yes.
And,
Well, a couple of Big Macs will really, you can bulk up pretty fast on
so I think
a
the
couple of
type
those.
of lifestyle
Yes.
that we live here, it's kind of is affecting our weight. This is kind of, I think this is something that we can take action. And as I said, if the patient becomes more active and eats healthy and takes
Yes.
control of his health,
Yes.
as I said,
I think that's one of the things that's actually coming down the pike is as the American healthcare system is going through whatever restructuring. I think it would be important that the patient responsibility issue be more upfront. And I mean, the system.
actually the patient has to be involved in their health. It's just kind of that's really very important.
And I'm not sure that patients understand just how difficult things can be if you really your body mass index is up to some huge number. That's kind of a way we look at the amount of extra weight that's
Right.
carried, and the numbers are just phenomenal here, and it really has a negative impact right down the line. Do you have any, you suggest exercise, anything else? What else should people do? They don't eat the bad.
Simple stuff, Dr. Robinson.
Yes,
It's kind
yes.
of, we have to find at least half an hour of exercise. We're all busy.
Right, right,
our,
yes.
our schedule is full. We don't have
Right,
time
right.
to exercise. But we can find half an
So
hour
stay out.
during
Well,
the
I
day.
mean that's true. Stay out of elevators. Walk. Right.
Correct.
Right, right.
And maybe we can cook more at home. It's
Right,
kind of
right.
you can control more the type of food
Yes.
you
Yes.
eat.
Yes.
Basically, it's kind of just increase vegetables, fruits, fibers. It's basically more healthy.
Now, how about a midnight snack with a big pint of ice cream?
Definitely.
Is that right?
Definitely.
Stay away from those midnight snacks. Is that right?
definitely,
Yeah, that's a
definitely,
big problem. Isn't it?
definitely,
That's a big deal.
Definitely.
Well, that sounds pretty interesting. Now, in your travels, you've seen different situations. You were in Algiers, and then you were in the capital city there. And how old were you when you were there in that
I
part?
went to Algeria when I was, I will say, 11.
Yes.
We did not live in the capital. We lived in a small city called Stave.
Yes.
It's kind of close to the north.
Right.
It kind of was a nice city.
Well, that's
nice
good. That's
memories,
good. So you
nice
have good memories, and so you can You have any thoughts about, let's say, the perception of America in the different places? I mean, would that conversation come up there much when there's a young girl there? Or I know there's a lot of world tensions about out there. And
No,
it's not too much.
that was a while ago. When I was
yes.
11, it's kind of, when I was young, we did not have a lot of discussion. But what I can tell you that in Syria, it's a dream for any medical student to come to the
Really?
United States. It's basically the ultimate dream.
So people want to come here, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Yes. Well, that's a good story. I mean, I think I make this comment that many times people imagine things are whatever they are here, and I think they look at the dark side of our country and our culture, and they might say, well, these things are terrible. And I think it's particularly true in healthcare, in medicine. People think, well, our healthcare system is so terrible. But I mean, you could compare the two systems, and I mean, it's much better here, is it not?
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
So we have almost endless technology and
Right.
unexcelled technology on any problem. Is that a fair statement?
That's
And,
absolutely.
And in Syria, it's more difficult to get access to that technology. What would happen?
There's no insurance.
There's no insurance?
No, there's no insurance.
So what happens if you don't have insurance? I mean, so it must be difficult.
Definitely. Sometimes it's difficult. There is some, if we can call it, public hospitals,
Yes.
which basically you don't have to pay there. And there's some private hospitals which require sometimes.
So people
advance
would have
payment.
to basically just pay out of their pocket for
most of the time
Without
for any
insurance.
procedure. Yes.
Wow.
yes.
Does that have what does that, must be a terrific, distressing situation sometimes.
It is.
If a
It
person.
is actually, yes.
So if you need let's say you have a brain tumor and it's unexpected and it's necessary to fix it, and
in
families must
addition
go.
to the stress of the brain tumor, you're going to have the stress of the surgery and
Yes,
the
right,
payment,
right.
yes.
The whole thing, just the whole family. Now, the families often help out in looking after the patient, don't they?
Yeah.
Come to the hospital. Is that
Definitely.
fair?
It's everywhere, you know.
I mean, here I think the families would be excluded in many ways from access to the patient. They're kept out of the room many times. But in Syria, they would be there helping. Is that true or not? To look after the patient, or maybe not?
You know, maybe not. Not all the family. No.
Sometimes
Yeah,
people are helping
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yes. And so a lot of people, it's difficult to do that. I mean, many people would like to come to America and come here. How many people were in your medical school class are now practicing in the States, would you say?
Actually, I have, from the year when I graduate, I have a few.
A few.
Few of them who are practicing here
And,
right
and
now.
that's people consider themselves very lucky to be here. Is that right?
Definitely, actually,
Yes,
definitely, Dr. Robinson.
And in Syria, if you finish medical school, what would be, you went into ophthalmology. How does that work? I mean, you take a test to go into ophthalmology residency? Is it competitive? I mean, how do you
Actually,
do it?
it's again depend on your score. The last year of medical school, basically some residency program will require higher scores than other residencies
Oh,
program.
really? So
yes.
is it pretty much just based on the score?
Yes, yes.
Well, I hope the neurosurgeons require the highest score. I'll say that as I steer off into space, but they may not. But that's an interesting situation. Why did you pick ophthalmology? What was the reason for that? You just
It
thought
was
it appealed
an
to you?
interesting subject that kind of I wanted to explore. when I
Yes,
first
yes. So
finished medical school.
you occasionally make use of it, I think. Do you not? Occasionally, some
Definitely,
ophthalmology-
actually, it's still handy until now. We did not have family medicine at that time, so that was not an option that's available
yes,
for me.
yeah.
So it's kind of, I started with ophthalmology. It's kind of very interesting, but it's kind of very
Yes,
useful.
yes, yes.
And the experience that I learned, I use it a lot in my practice.
You know, it must be difficult. Many times, I don't know if people appreciate how tough it is to come here from another country. Your family is back in Syria. That must be distressing in many ways to have a sense of not being able to easily see your old friends, to see your family. That's quite a sacrifice to be here. Is that correct?
Well, I'm blessed to be here too, but definitely, and it's kind of, I always try to stay in touch with them.
Yes. Now, can you do that? I mean, people, they have internet or they Skype. I mean, is it possible to do those things?
Yeah, definitely.
So you could stay in contact with your family.
Right, through.
And that's better than it used to be, I think. in
Yes,
many years.
much better actually. It's kind of Skype. You can see them now. It's
Yes,
nice.
yes.
It's nice.
Now, I know you have 3 daughters who we'll meet in a little bit. Is there? I hope we can persuade them. I hope they're not too shy to come here. We'll talk a little bit. But would you encourage medicine for them? I mean, each person is different.
I think that's their goal now.
Yes.
All of them are very interested in medicine.
Well,
so,
good. Well, I know your
I hope
husband's a physician. So let's see. I think we're going to. Well, we're getting close to bringing them out, and we can say hello to them. And I'm going to encourage them to study hard. Do you tell them? Should I tell them on television to study hard?
Definitely. Actually, we tell them that all the time at home.
Well, I see they're kind of approaching. Well, all right. Why don't you come on out, young ladies? Come on out here. We'll get to show you off. Come on in. Come on, have a seat here. Just sit with your mama here. Come on in. All right. Well, good. So, all right, we get to talk. Oh, who wants to sit next to me? Nobody? No one wants to sit next to me. Okay. Well, why don't we just say who we have here? Let's make introductions.
You want to say hello? Well, this is my Rania, and this is Tara, my oldest, and this is Sabina.
Well, hello, young ladies.
Now, say hello.
Everybody okay? Did you want to say something to your classmates? You're in school now, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to say hello to them?
Hello.
How about you? Would you like to say hello? You're not sure? And how about you, young lady, dressed in pink? Do you want to make any remarks?
Hello.
Hello there. Well, that's good. Well, now you've got a beautiful family here. It must be tough to not be there all the time, but you're obviously there a lot. Now, do you girls want to go into medicine, or you've considered that?
I want to be an eye doctor.
You're an eye doctor, really? You already picked that out?
When I was 5.
You already picked that out, and if
I want to be work with mommy.
you want to work with your mother, that's good. That's a good thing. Well, as we sit here and we discuss this, your classmates, how are they coping with having a family and practicing medicine? Has that been a difficult thing for them? I mean, do you have a support group? I mean, what happens when you're trying to do this thing? I mean, because about 50% of the of medical students in the United States are ladies, females. Can I say that? But I mean, how does it work? I mean, do you talk to each other about life and other?
Definitely, it's kind of, but as I said, it's kind of family situation will help basically female physician a lot.
Yes.
So I really will appreciate the help that my husband gives me.
Right,
It's kind
right.
of,
He's
he
a great
provided
guy.
big help.
Yes.
And I think my kids have been good. It's kind of,
They're very quiet tonight. Is that normal? They're pretty
yeah,
quiet.
kind of,
Everybody's
kind
they're
of,
sort of
kind of.
just very quiet, quiet young group here. They're just waving. Well, when you have your children and go through pregnancy, has that been a tough thing? It's been pretty tough.
there was a period of time where it was a little bit tough, but to be honest, and it's kind of, I have to mention that, it's kind of during residency I had one, Sabina,
right.
But it's kind of the program that I was doing my residency was very helpful. So it's kind of that made it easy to.
Well, you know, it's been great having you and your beautiful family here tonight, and we'll have to have you back again. And you're sort of the new wave of the American physician there. So it's great to have you with you, and you're obviously doing a great job.
All right.
Thanks for
thank
coming.
you, Dr.
Thank you.
Robinson. Thank you.
Thanks.
This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.